Welcome everybody to Roseville Story Time. Last week we looked at the story about Jesus when he was walking on the water and calmed a storm. This week we're going to look at a story with Jesus found in the New Testament.
Oh yeah, bring out the flannel graph.
No flannel graph this week.
Wait, last week we did a story about Jesus, and you said it had to be a special story and you used flannel graph. So this week you said another story with Jesus. Jesus story equals flannel graph, right?
Okay, yeah, but this story isn't really a story about Jesus. It's a story he told. Okay, look, sometimes when Jesus taught things, he would use stories called parables to explain what he was teaching.
Maybe you should just start the parable.
All right, fair enough. The parable starts out with a conversation that Jesus had with a guy who knew the law of God really well. You see, this law guy came to Jesus with a question. Rabbi, teacher, what do I need to do to get forever life?
Good question. What was Jesus' answer?
Well, Jesus told him, what does the law say? And the law guy was like, well, you need to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, and you need to love your neighbor as yourself. And Jesus was like, yeah, you're right. You do those things, you will have forever life.
Okay, well, we started with a question and we have our answer. This is going to be the shortest Roseville story time that we have ever had.
Okay, hold on, not so fast. You see, the law guy asked Jesus a question. Maybe he was trying to make himself look smart, or maybe he was just trying to make his life easier. But he asked Jesus, well, who is my neighbor?
Okay, well, with the setup you've got here, I'm guessing that Jesus' answer was not just whoever lives on the right side and the left side of your house or apartment.
Yeah, not so much. You see, he told a parable. He told a story that went like something like this. One day there was a Jewish guy walking down the road when all of a sudden some thieves came out of nowhere and started beating him up. Ow! Get away! Not my money! Hey, that's my favorite cloak! And they left him on the road.
Wow, that is terrible. But I see you have some other figures set up here, so maybe they're on their way to help?
Well, the first guy was a priest, and the priest knew the law of God really well. He worked in the temple. And as he was coming up to the man and he saw how oozy and bruisey he was, hi there, he walked around him. Oh, I'm getting away from that.
Wait, what? Didn't he know he should stop to help?
Well, there was another guy. This guy was a Levite. He also worked in the temple and knew God's law. Hi! And as he was coming up to the Jew who was hurt and needing so much help on the side of the road, he looked at him and he said, oh, I'm going around you.
What is with these guys? They know the law. Love your neighbor. Isn't anyone going to help this guy?
Well, there was a third guy. He was a Samaritan. And the thing about Samaritans, though, is that the Samaritans and the Jews, they don't really get along. The Jews do everything they can to avoid the Samaritans.
Okay, if this isn't going to be a happy ending, you really need to give a warning. Your audience, kids, Andrew?
Okay, well, let's just see what happens. As the Samaritan was walking down the road, he stopped and he saw the guy who needed help sitting on the side lane on the side of the road, hurting and in so much pain. And the Samaritan decided to care for him. He went over to the guy and he bandaged him up and tended to his wounds. And then he brought over his donkey and he took the guy who was beat up and put him on his donkey. And then they together went over to the innkeeper, and he went up to the innkeeper and said, oh, good sir, might I trouble you for room for 2 people? And he spent the whole night caring for the Jew who had been hurt. And the next day, the Samaritan went back to the innkeeper. Excuse me, good sir. Here, take some money and care for that injured fellow in your inn. Upon my return, if the money was not enough money, I will give you more money to pay for all the costs that it takes to make him well again.
Wait, he even paid for him to stay at the inn? I mean, I'm glad he helped him and all, but would the bandages and donkey ride have been enough? He didn't know the guy, and the groups didn't even get along.
Well, let's see how Jesus ends the parable. You see, Jesus then turned to the law guy and he said, well, so who was the neighbor? Was it the priest? Hi there. Was it the Levite? Hello. Or was it the Samaritan? Good day, sir. And the law guy said, well, it was the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus responded with, yeah, you go and do the same.
So, how does the law guy go and do the same? And what does this story teach us?
Well, the Samaritans and Jews, they're different people. They don't get along, and they probably didn't look the same. They didn't do a lot of the same things, but the Samaritan was the one who's described as the one who showed mercy.
This shows that loving your neighbor doesn't mean to just love the people who are very similar to you
That's
or
right.
the people you already know really well. Our neighbors aren't always just like us. I'm thinking that the Samaritan must have gotten sore feet giving up his donkey, and he was poorer after paying for the inn, probably late to wherever he was going. Being a neighbor and showing love doesn't seem like it is always easy or comfortable. But look at the law about loving your neighbor. It says, as yourself. The Samaritan had compassion, and he took care of the man the way he would want to be taken care of.
Yeah, that's right. But we also can't forget about the first law, which is to love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind. As we spend time loving God, worshiping Him, letting Him change our hearts begin to look more and more like His heart.
God sent his own son, Jesus, to die for us, to show his love. When our hearts grow to be more and more like God's, the more we can look at our neighbors with compassion. And the more we rely on God to help us, the more we are able to act out that love, even when it isn't easy or comfortable.
That's right. You can read more about the Good Samaritan, and you can find it
in Luke 10, verses 25 to 37. Join us next time for more Roseville Story Time.
Why does my family keep taking all my lines?